Hello and welcome to the Football Parliament podcast, your one-stop destination for all your football-related topics, debates, discussions, and opinions. Today, I'm joined with Vedant Khandelwal, Chirag, Palash, and Tanish Tiwari.
We're just 1 month away from the start of the UEFA Euro 2020, and thus we start a new series. So, welcome to a new segment called Build Up to Euro 2020. In this segment, we're going to be taking one team at a time, one nation at a time, and having a detailed discussion about them. So, starting with one of the best nations out there in Europe, which is England. So we've got actually Tanish, Chirag, and Rishabh who've seen a lot of English football because we are predominantly Premier League fans. I think it'll be a good discussion today. So Chirag, how should we plan it?
So for every team in this segment, in our series, we will be discussing about the strength, the weakness, one MVP player according to us, a predicted lineup, and what we predict where the team will finish, either the semi-finals, the winners, the finalists, or either the group stage. So starting with the first point, that is the strength.
Ready?
So according
Strength.
to you, Rishabh, what is the biggest strength
Before we
for
start,
the English
before we
team?
start for the strength, I would just like to, talk about England for a bit. There were dreams of football coming home again almost 3 years ago as England reached the semi-finals of the World Cup for the first time since 1990, before eventually losing to Croatia and finishing fourth. And Croatia are there against them in the group stages. Although the Three Lions bounced back and after also reaching the UEFA Nations League semi-finals in 2019, they set their sights on qualifying for Euro 2020, knowing the final would be at Wembley. It was an almost perfect run through qualifying, with England finishing top of the group, winning seven of their eight games against Czech Republic, Kosovo, Bulgaria, and Montenegro. The sole dampener was a defeat to Czech Republic, ruining the perfect record. Excitement is building for England ahead of the summer's tournament, with the Three Lions amongst the favourite to win as usual. But just how well can they do?
Definitely, it would be right to say that England are one of the favorites, but there is this history attached to England and international tournaments. They have had their golden generation apparently go trophyless, but we're talking about the current English squad. So Rishabh, which what is the most strongest part of this England team according to you?
So, for me, looking at the England squad as a whole, I wouldn't say that there is no weak point. Rather, I would say maybe there are a lot of players who don't have the most experience in the squad. But I feel personally the strength lies within the creative playmaking that the players bring with them. You look at the likes of Jadon Sancho, Mason Mount, Phil Foden, Jesse Lingard for that matter, and even defensive-minded people like Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips. You look at these players and you see that they are the people who can actually determine the outcome of a game. Once they play together as a system, not as a whole yet. So I feel it lies in the creative playmaking, especially as a Manchester City fan. Seeing Phil Foden in the Premier League against the top six and the mid-tier clubs, and Jadon Sancho in the Bundesliga. I strongly feel that those two are one of the most important players, if not the most important player in the England squad.
Well said. And Tanish, what about you? What do you think is England's biggest strength?
To me, I think England's biggest strength undoubtedly is their strength and depth in the squad. Now, with the COVID rules, new COVID rules, I think the size of the squad has been increased to 26 members. So now that obviously plays into the hands of Gareth Southgate, who has a wide selection of a huge pool of talent currently, and a young pool of talent currently in the English setup. That is one of their foremost strengths, but I'm a bit apprehensive about Gareth Southgate and his choices. So let's see how it goes. But I just wish them the best.
I have a
But
question
yes,
to each and every one of y'all, and I really want to ask the Premier League fans about this. What are your general views about Gareth Southgate? I mean, I've heard some people troll him because of his choices and stuff, but I want to know from each and every one of y'all.
Why don't
well,
you
this
go first?
this is quite a
Yeah,
controversial
Rishabh.
topic because it is something you know everyone has a different opinion on. And while I think most of the English fans or even Premier League fans would be anti-Southgate, Southgate out is the slogan right now. I personally am in favor of Southgate. Before I state the reasons why, I would ask Rishabh. Probably would be out Southgate as well.
To be frank, I will looking from after the World Cup, how much Gareth Southgate has done, you can see him as probably like the most accomplished English manager. After 1990 to get England into a semi-final for the 2018 World Cup and for the Euros to qualify with an almost perfect run. I feel Gareth Southgate, he is an excellent manager, but where he lacks is, giving game time to the younger players, to the people who he knows can change the outcome of a game. So for that reason, I am anti Southgate because he needs to give the time to the younger players so that they can grow on the field themselves. What about you, Chirag?
See, according to me, what problem with Southgate is that whenever we see the squad, the England squad has so much depth, so much known players in the squad that we cannot even imagine. Other country managers do not have so much depth or so much known players to the fans that every club fan will troll the manager for if their team player is not playing. We will criticize him if Mount is not playing. You will criticize if Foden is not playing. So this is something that Southgate has to handle. But according to me, he is also on the fault because changing tactics in between games when he switches to a back three when you have so great full backs with you. Why will you go to a back three when your center back position is not so strong? You have good center backs, but definitely not the best in the world. When you have best in the world right backs or the left backs, so why don't you go with them? I do not understand his tactics. Leaving out some key players, some experienced players, or some youth players in their prime form and going for the established players who are not in the best of their forms is also something I would never understand what Southgate does. So I definitely I'm not on the board for Southgate, but in this Euros I will be supporting him so that England squad can achieve something that they really deserve. And now I
My
think we
answer
should move
to
on.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
let's just
No, I
last
think
thing.
we should move to the
Yeah, you
yeah.
spoke about his squad selection part, and his squad selection has come under a lot of scrutiny of late. But I personally am not a very big critic of his squad selection. I think it's pretty decent. I think he takes some brave calls, like Mason Mount, not the one Mason Mount right now, but 6 to 8 months back. Wasn't he criticized so much for selection of Mason Mount? And now everyone agrees with his selection. Similarly, if he continues to select players which aren't performing that well in the Premier League, despite the fact that England have so much squad depth, they'll have a wrong message to all the players out there. Him dropping Trent Alexander-Arnold was a very great decision, according to me. Trent wasn't playing that well, and you see the immediate reactions of the same. He scored a banger of a goal. I don't know. I think it was Aston Villa or someone. So I think that I'm actually in favor of his squad selection, but obviously it's a completely different matter. I think we should move on to the weaknesses in the English squad.
Yeah.
Starting with Tanish,
So talking about
what do you think is the main weakness of this English squad?
One weakness that immediately comes to mind is the absence of a top established goalkeeper. Like, let's be very honest, Jordan Pickford, Dean Henderson, or Nick Pope aren't the best out there in the world, and uh, that for me is the biggest weakness. Second weakness being maybe the center back positions, but he often tends to counteract that weakness with a three at the back or a five at the back with two sitting number sixes. So he knows how to get a lot out of his squad, but sometimes I think his in-game tactics and his in-game management lets him down in the biggest matches.
Rishabh, what about you? What do you think is the biggest weakness in the three line
Um,
squad right now?
I'm actually in complete agreement, with Tanish on this about the goalkeeper positions because, like it or not, our England's number one is Jordan Pickford, who, to be frank, is mediocre. Considered we've seen him play in the Premier League. He's very lucky, to be backed by a decently strong defense. The likes of John Stones, Harry Maguire, Reece James, Luke Shaw, for that matter. So, and he when it comes to one-on-ones, Jordan Pickford isn't really the man you wanted between the sticks. That's why they had to call in Sam Johnstone as a fourth, option for a goalkeeper. So maybe England probably needs to scout more goalkeepers or probably younger goalkeepers, to give them the opportunity to perform at the very top of at the very top.
To be honest, Jordan Pickford, I definitely don't think is of the same level as some of the top keepers of the other nations. But Nick Pope, he might not be the same level, but I think he is somewhere just below that. And in some games when the defense is quite good, the goalkeeper might not have such a big say. According to me, the biggest weakness of the squad is the depth in the centre back position, rather quality centre backs. Recently, I think it was Jamie Gallagher who said on Monday Night Football that Maguire, or was it Gary Neville? Either of them said that Maguire, probably would be Roy Keane, but the point is that they said that Maguire is England's most important player, and without Harry Maguire, they do not see England playing with a back four. Rather, they need an extra centre back in case Maguire isn't fit. And recently, he has picked up, I think it's an ankle injury, which will he be 100% for the Euros? And if Maguire is not there, who is there to partner Stones? Connor Cody, is he good enough? Ben Godfrey, Michael Keane, these are some of the options.
Mix.
James Tarkowski. I don't think England centre back pairing without Maguire, Stones and Maguire looks good, but without Maguire, do they have the quality depth in centre back? I really doubt so.
No, I'll just add, like whenever we compare the strengths or the weakness of any squad, we have to see the opposition against which they are competing. When you talk about France, when you talk about Germany, they have the best goalkeepers in the world. Hugo Lloris is the World Cup winning captain. In Germany, you have Manuel Neuer, Ter Stegen to back him up. In Spain, also you have a lot of competition. De Gea, Kepa. When you know about these guys, they are definitely better than the other. No trolling against Kepa here. Like, still, he has been performing decent. We have David De Gea, who can back up, and many other keepers in Spain. But when you talk about the
Chirag,
English squad,
Nick Pope has been performing better than both Daya and Laurie since probably
but
one to
Nick
two
Pope,
seasons now.
Hugo
no, I'm
Lloris
coming to
has
the
been
point. The
exceptional,
point
to
is,
be honest.
no, I'll, no, I'll just give a state a point. Like England is not being consistent with their keeper. You have to be consistent to the player who is your number one between the sticks. If you will be changing every weekend or week out, you will change your keeper. How will someone be short of their position? And also talking about
Guys,
their defensive stability, without Harry Maguire,
uh,
without Harry
you
Maguire,
continue.
definitely you do
I'll say
not have
later.
a yeah, you do not have any backup for the center back position according to me. So going to a back four is the most convenient thing according to me, where you can have your full backs, where either one of can be a defensive full back, either Van Bissaka or Kyle Walker, while the other could be the attacking one. So according to me, going to a back four is the best according to me, and this is their biggest weakness as well.
Talking about English goalkeepers, what about Dean Henderson? I mean, he's English too, right? Plus, Jordan Pickford has been England's first choice goalkeeper for some time, but in Dean Henderson, he appears to be having a fitting rival and potential replacement for this summer's tournament. Henderson has performed excellently when called upon for Manchester United, where he's challenging Spanish David De Gea for the number one jersey. It would be a big call to make in the summer, considering the relationship Pickford has built with the usual centre backs. But Henderson looks to be the future, in my opinion, and I think he could deserve a start.
Since
So
we're
we had
already
Vedant
talking
stay.
about just a minute, Chirag, since we're already
Yeah.
talking about the goalkeepers and who is the best, I think we should move on to the next part, which is the predicted lineup, or rather our preferred lineup. And then we can move to other stuff like MVP. We are already talking about the goalkeeper, so your picks, starting with the shop, just one name, no explanation needed.
For me, it still has to be Jordan Pickford. For me,
Chirag,
currently.
It has to be Henderson on form.
Vedant,
Dean Henderson.
Danish.
To be Henderson, but it's going to be Jordan Pickford.
I personally would go for Nick Pope. So probably one of these three. I personally am not a big fan of Jordan Pickford, but now we move on to the position where England have the most depth, probably in world football, which is none other than the right back position. A
So
very
you are going
controversial
for the right
position.
back, not the right wing back. Going for a back four, right?
I
Yeah,
think
oh,
England
definitely.
could line up in a 3-4-3. That's what I feel.
A
Three at the
formation
back.
is something that we have yet to decide. So Southgate had been
Standard
playing
four
with
three
three at the
three.
back, but in the very recent friendlies, he did switch to a flat 4-3-3 formation at the back four, which according to me is the best formation over a three at the back. What about you, Rishabh? Do you agree with the four
Yeah,
and
I
three?
completely agree. A three at the back isn't probably the best idea for England. Considering the depth and plus the lack of quality in some of the players. So four at the back would probably be the most ideal formation for the England squad.
Now, who's your starting right back?
My starting right back for me would be Reece James. He's been absolutely phenomenal for Chelsea this season, defensive wise. his attacking prowess is pretty decent. Probably not, something as good as, Kyle Walker would have, but defensive-mindedly, Reece James takes the spot for me.
And Rishabh, you are leaving the England's best player, the guy with the most potential, Alexander Arnold.
Yeah, to be fair though,
He's overrated.
Alexander Arnold, I know Alexander Arnold is an extremely talented player. He is pretty good. But even this season, especially from the start, while Virgil van Dijk was there, he hasn't been putting in the most consistent of performances for, the Premier League side. And for the Euros, I don't think that's, a liability that Gareth Southgate really wants on his hands. So maybe
No, I will completely
leaving
agree
out
with
Trent
you.
Alexander-Arnold would be the best of ideas.
So Rishabh is
No, I
gone for
completely
Reece
agree
James.
with
I've
you.
got a Chelsea. I'm a Chelsea fan myself. I've got two more Chelsea fans. So Tanish, your pick is Reece James as well for the right back position.
We can't hear
Oh,
you,
Tanish?
Tanish.
Yeah, it was not.
Yeah. No, I just said
Actually,
that I will completely agree with Rishabh here because if England has to go with a 3-4-3, then I can see Alexander Arnold as the right wing back over anyone else because he has the best attacking output amongst all the options available. But I will go for Reece James as well because I don't know if Southgate is trusting him enough or not, but he has the best balance that he provides. He is not so defensive like Van Bissaka and not so attacking like Trent Alexander-Arnold, but the best amongst the two whenever he is playing. So according to me, Reece James should occupy the back four position and not Alexander Arnold because he does not have a defender like Virgil van Dijk to cover him up. Neither Harry Maguire or Connor Cody are going to cover you up, and if he goes to way too much up, providing assists. So I think I will go for Reece James as well.
on the opposite flank, do we all agree on Luke Shaw? Is there a case for Ben Chilwell among the Chelsea
Yes,
fans?
Yeah,
yes, definitely.
Luke Shaw, Luke Shaw.
Luke Shaw,
For me.
definitely. But before we go to the opposite flank, I just have to say one thing that regardless of who goes to Euros for England, you can be certain that I think Southgate will go for a three-man central defense because he has relied on it since 2018 as it helped them to keep them secure when they needed it. And as with the most three other back formations, England will rely a lot on their wing backs. And I think the right wing back for England could be Kieran Trippier.
Trippier,
This is
It's
a
a
Trippier,
good
surprise for
shout.
you all, but
especially because of
Kieran
his
Trippier,
special. Yeah, one of the
Kieran Trippier,
kind of
yeah, you go.
myths that people have nowadays is that if a fullback is good going forward, he would be good as a wing back, which is not completely true because they are quite different positions. We saw this with Ben Chilwell when he was first shifted to wing back. He was not that good. Now he has adapted his game. So the question now is that if Southgate chooses a back three, then who would your starting wing back pairing be? So Vedant, you can continue.
See, I'll go for a three at the back. Considering whatever opposition England face, they can switch to a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-4-1-2 or whatever, or a 3-4-3 for that matter. And three at the back for me would be Maguire, Stones, and Kyle Walker at right centre back, and right wing back probably Kieran Trippier.
And what about you, Rishabh? Who would your starting left back slash left wing back be?
My starting left back slash left winger, again thinking defensively, for me it has to be Luke Shaw. The most improved player in the Premier League this season. Ben Chilwell is an extraordinary player, but I refer to Ben Chilwell as the new Ashley Cole with the attacking runs that he makes down the back. But Luke Shaw has been absolutely phenomenal. I think probably the best left back England can currently have in their squad. So yeah, I pick Luke Shaw.
Luke Shaw. And do the Chelsea fans over here have a case for Chilwell or both of them agree on Shaw?
Oh,
No,
actually,
we agree.
Shaw.
definitely.
Yeah.
Sure, it is then. And the centre back pairing is Maguire and Stones a given, or do you all have any other contenders for the same?
Actually, I
Stones
would
and
like
No,
to see
Maguire and Stones
Maguire
rock
and
solid.
Walker.
Tanish has also saying this, yeah.
I think I would like to see Maguire and Walker together because I think I've seen them in one game and they were very good. But
Yeah.
and sometimes John Stones is a bit error prone, but let's see. I think he'll mostly go for John Stones and Harry Maguire back.
Yeah.
If we've gone for a four-man defense, there are two still, practical options left. Firstly is a 4-2-3-1 formation in which we take two defensive mids, and then three in front of them and a striker, or we can go for a flat 4-3-3. Oh, sorry, yeah, which is the formation that Southgate most recently played in their last friendly. So, what would your midfield be, starting with Chirag?
So can you repeat please?
So
Midfield. What would your
midfield.
midfield be?
Midfield. See, Declan Rice is owning that position, and according to me, he is being sidelined at the against Western squad also because he is getting fully fit for the Euros. He could make a comeback to the Western squad as soon as possible, but he is taking his time because he wants to get fit for the Euros. And according to me, he would be one of the most crucial players if England has to win the game, win the whole league. So according to me, Declan Rice, and alongside him, rather I will go for a 4-2-3-1, and I will put in Calvin Phillips as well. I do not see Mount as a number six, as a holding defensive midfielder as Southgate is trying him, but I see him being deployed more in front, like an attacking 10 or a roaming 8, you can all say, but I cannot see him as a sitting number six, and that is the reason I will go for Calvin Phillips, who can distribute well all over the pitch and definitely be the defensive, give the defensive solidarity to the England squad.
So, what is your complete midfield finally?
So it's a 4-2-3-1. The three in middle will be Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips alongside Mason Mount. Rishabh, your take. 4-3-3,
yeah,
4-2-3-1.
so I'll be going for a standard 4-3-3. My defensive midfielder, like you mentioned, is going to be Declan Rice for me. He's been really hardworking. We've all seen him play in West Ham before he was sidelined by his injuries. He's very promising. Alongside Jesse Lingard. But after I pick Declan Rice, another centre mid I would choose is probably Jude Bellingham from Borussia Dortmund. He's been pretty good this season, not only for England but for Dortmund as well. Playing in the Champions League against Manchester City in both the leg season, absolutely phenomenal. And alongside him, I would see Mason Mount playing, but I have no idea, how Gareth is going to play him, if he's going to play him as a flat midfielder or as an attacking midfielder. But my my midfield again would be Declan Rice, Mason Mount, and Jude Bellingham.
Then it's your take.
Challenge your take, yeah.
I'm actually going to go with a 4-3-3. I want a 6, an 8, and a 10. So 6 will be Declan Rice, in my opinion. If Jordan Henderson wouldn't have been injured, I think it would have been him instead of anyone else in that number 6 role. But I think due to his injury, I think Declan Rice will overtake him in the pecking order. Declan Rice, then you have Mason Mount as the number 8, box to box, whatever you want to call it. And I want to see Phil Foden in that number 10 role, just behind the striker, in the middle of sort of like a focal point in attack for England. Sort of a team which revolves around one player. I want that player to be Mason Mount. Phil Foden. Phil Foden in that central mid role, and obviously 3 attackers in front of him. So my ideal midfield will be Declan Rice, Mason Mount, and Phil Foden.
But then, if you're going for Phil Foden as a sort of cam, then would you have Declan Rice and especially Mason Mount as the deep line? You can say number 6, because it's not particularly his best position. Mason Mount, is it?
No, I said I'm
It's
not going for a
4-3-3.
4-2-3-1. I'm going for a 4-3-3. So I have a 6, an 8, and a 10. So 8 will be my Mason Mount. That roaming midfielder. That
So when you
box to
take
box.
a midfield 3 of both Mount and Rice, both Mount and Foden would be a bit too offensive.
At one point
What
or
about
the
you,
other,
Palash?
England
What
has
do you
to
think about this?
showcase their strengths, haven't they?
Y'all
They've
have
got to
y'all have
use their best
yeah,
players on the pitch in every game. So might as well go with a midfield of Foden. And Mount.
the best players part does make a lot of sense. Y'all have named the best players: Jude Bellingham, Declan Rice, Mason Mount, Phil Foden. These are obviously players that you would expect England, to start for England. And I completely agree with all of them. Can be a combination of any of them. But I would like to put one name forward, which I want to see at least in the squad, if not in the starting 11, because that seems a bit impractical right now. That name would be James Ward-Prowse from Southampton. So not a lot many people would agree to this, but I think that Ward-Prowse as a player is quite underrated apart from his set pieces. So set pieces is not a doubt. I think he's the best in the Premier League with that. So potentially having players like Jack Grealish and Marcus Rashford who win tons of fouls, And having players like Harry Maguire, Harry Kane who can head a ball from indirect free kicks and corners, I think Ward Prowse, with his overall gameplay and his set piece ability, would be an asset to the English team.
So moving on to attackers now. Chirag, why don't you give us your pick on your front line?
Yeah, so going with the three attack, I would still pick on their credentials. I would still go for a attacker. It obviously has to be Harry Kane. No one else. The leader, the captain of England. I can see him lifting the Euros this year also. So I'll go with Harry Kane, the best in the league.
Bold claim.
Yeah, the best in the league. On the right side, I will go for Jadon Sancho. He might not be in the best of his game right now. Rather, he has stepped up this season of late. But definitely, Jadon Sancho and his creative abilities put him on the makes me put him on the right side. On the left side, there's a great deep competition, I will say, with Jack Grealish, Raheem Sterling, and many others. But I will personally go for a Jack Grealish, who can be the perfect assist maker or assist provider to someone like Harry Kane inside the box. So I will go for a Jack Grealish on the left side with Jadon Sancho on the right, Harry Kane at top.
What about you, Vedant? Who do you think would be your front three?
See, I think I agree with Chirag on this. I think Kane is going to be the striker, but the captain, in my opinion, would be Jordan Henderson. I think Jordan Henderson deserves to be there because why is it a shock to you, Chirag?
Because Kane is leading the squad for the last many games, and definitely he is being eyed as the leader of the group.
He's been the
Yeah, but
England
over the
captain since
last 2 years or so,
2016.
the Liverpool captain has added an almost non-stop winning mentality to the midfield. Henderson's tenaciousness, lead by example mentality will be integral to England, I think, for the chances of success.
And maybe,
Okay,
yeah.
scrap off the
No,
midfield,
no,
back
I'm
to the
saying that
attack.
making
Yeah.
Henderson captain would also take off the curse of Tottenham player lifting a trophy. Yeah, you can go on.
Yeah, sorry, Vedant, you can go on now.
So I think the left winger could be Marcus Rashford, striker will be Harry Kane, and right wing Jadon Sancho.
What about you, Palash?
Since I've not taken Phil Foden in my midfield three, I will go for Foden. I will also go for Kane as a nailed on position over there. And quite surprisingly to many people, I will also go for Marcus Rashford due to his form this season. I think he's been extremely impressive. Prior to this season, I would have gone for Raheem Sterling, but this season my front three would be, it would be Rashford, Kane, Foden.
What about you, Palash?
I think for some reason, Gareth Southgate does not like Jack Grealish at all. I mean, he does not talk about him. He does not play him regularly. So if it wouldn't have been for that, I would have picked Jack Grealish on my side. But I'm going with Marcus Rashford on the left. I'm going with obviously Harry Kane as the central striker. And Jadon Sancho has to start. He has to start simply because, yes, he's young, but he's explosive. And his end product is unlike anything that I've seen from a teenager. His end product is ridiculous. His goals, assists over the past two seasons have been ridiculous. Although in the Bundesliga, he is one of the most lethal wingers out there. And I think England will be very lucky to have him in the starting level.
I think we done with the predicted lineup part, or is there someone left?
No, I have mine last. So
Yeah, Rishabh, please.
no, it's fine. So personally, as an inverted winger, like Tanush said, Phil Foden being in the number 10 position would be excellent for someone like Harry Kane to back him up. But I personally see Phil Foden being played as an inverted winger on the right. I feel like Gareth Southgate can actually use Foden's speed and his dribbling, which is unlike any other. I mean, you have the likes of Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford, Jack Grealish, who are excellent at dribbling as well. But Phil Foden as an inverted winger is absolutely different from what I've seen in game. Striker, undoubtedly Harry Kane, captain of England. He's been in tremendous form this season, not only in the Premier League but in the Euros as well. And on the left, my bias, would go towards somebody like Raheem Sterling, but his form has been not the very best of his career. So I would go with someone like Marcus Rashford. Jadon Sancho and Jack Grealish, they're amazing. But I feel, with a squad like this much of depth, I feel like maybe, just maybe, they should be benched because Marcus Rashford, he's got the pace. He's extremely lethal. Phil Foden can make the plays. Harry Kane, your natural finisher. So that front three would probably be the deadliest that England can give us right now.
So
And
with
what
this,
about
I
you?
would just Kalash,
Sure,
just a minute, yeah, please. With just, I will ask you all to just name your most valuable player for England, who will be the most valuable player, and the position they will be ending, either the winners, the finalists, the semi-finalists, anything. Tanesh.
I think unsurprisingly, my MVP will be Harry Kane. It will be Harry Kane, which will be the most important player. And I think they will get knocked out in the semifinals. I'm sure.
Done, just the name.
Harry Kane.
Position.
Very good
Position
finish.
semi-finals.
Palash, is the cup coming home?
Harry Maguire, most important player, possession winners.
Rishabh.
Um, Personally, for me, the MVP is going to be Phil Foden, purely because of how hard it is to separate my bias. Phil Foden is going to be the MVP for England, and I feel like they will be knocked out in the finals. They won't be able to bring it home.
And putting up my opinion as well, I personally think the MVP will be Mason Mount, and this is not because of my bias. This is because of his form, the guy he is the way he is performing, and he will be the most crucial player alongside Declan Rice. And their position, I want to say that they will be winning the title, but I know their history, and I will still say they are going to the semis itself, being knocked out in the semis. So I think that's it from us. Do
Yep.
comment down how do you see England lining up in the coming Euros? How do you see which teams do you want us to analyze before the big Euros coming up? Palash.
Yep, that's it. For more top quality football content, keep listening to the Football Parliament podcast. See you all next time.
Peace.